certified bangers. PhantasmaCast.
You're dangerous. Derek just almost he didn't almost spill a beer, but
I almost spilled movies.
Kino, yeah, he almost spilled the Kino Lorbers.
Yeah. Which is a bigger party foul.
Yeah.
In this house.
So as we were setting up, you told me that you had some movie news.
What do you know about Lisa Frankenstein?
I've seen the poster, and it looks dope as fuck. I don't know. Wait, it's not that new Larry Fessenden movie. No, he already made a Frankenstein movie.
Right.
Okay. What is it? Tell me about it.
It's a Diablo Cody written movie directed by Zelda Williams.
Zelda Williams.
Of Robin Williams' descent.
No fucking way.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm in. I'm sold. I don't need to know. I mean, it's Frankenstein.
Yeah. So I heard about this when I was like on Twitter and I followed Zelda Williams. So she was like, hey, we got this thing in the works, blah, blah, blah. It's Lisa Frankenstein. So I was like, can't wait to see it when it comes out. And it like just came out of nowhere. I was like, okay, so no marketing whatsoever. Like that kind of bummed me out.
Cool shit.
Yeah.
Is not allowed to have a marketing campaign.
No, not at all.
Today we are going to talk about 2 really good movies.
2 certified bangers.
So every episode we are going to pick a pair of movies, right? That are going to serve as a double feature, for the weekend.
That's right.
It's like if you went to the video store, you went to Blockbuster, Hollywood Video, and you only had, $5 to grab 2 movies. What are you watching,
Mm-hmm.
Except, the movies we're picking, there's a little bit to it.
There's a little twist.
So you picked 1992's Death Becomes Her.
That's right.
I picked 1980's The Fog.
Yes, sir.
And there is one thing that connects those movies together. What is it?
The commonality is the Cundey commonality. The Cundey connection, if you
Cundey
will.
connection, yes.
We're talking Dean Cundey. We're talking the cinematographer, Dean Cundey. And for the other 5 people in the world that are like, oh, whoa, cool.
Holy fuck, Dean Cundey.
Yeah. You're our audience. Awesome. Thank you. For literally everyone else, Dean Cundey has shot a lot of freaking great movies.
He's shot everything, almost everything.
Yeah. Should we just like kind of off the top of our head?
Yeah, just
go?
list them off.
All right, you go first because
I'm going to go with my my favorite.
Yeah.
The Thing.
Yes. I'll go Back to the Future.
Jurassic Park.
Back to the Future Part 2.
That's unfair. You got it.
Okay.
He worked with John Carpenter a lot, right?
Yes. So
he did the first Halloween, he did the second Halloween, he did the third Halloween, right?
Mm-hmm.
So a long storied career with John Carpenter, but also a long storied career with Robert Zemeckis.
Yeah. Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Back to the Future Part 3. These are all true, by the way. We're laughing, but we didn't make those up.
No, yeah. And I think, I think I can pinpoint when I first realized just who Dean Cundey was. It was during the pandemic, right? And I think we were having a conversation we watched a ton of movies, a ton of 80s movies. And we just kept seeing this name, Dean Cundey, show up, right? And then we finally looked into it and we're like, holy shit, this guy has shot all of our favorite movies.
Yeah. You want to know, my memory of it is we were watching Psycho 2. And then I don't know why we were just like, okay, yeah, this looks pretty good actually for a sequel to a Alfred Hitchcock movie.
Right. You go into Psycho 2 going straight to TV trash. Boo.
Yeah. Oh, well, we're in for a doozy, you know? And then, we're in there. I think it's like a courtroom shot. And it says director of photography, Dean Cundey. And for some reason, it just tickled me. I was like, Dean Cundey.
Dean Cundey. Yeah. He sounds like the fixer that you call in to fucking get shit right.
Yeah, get me Dean.
Get Dean on the phone. Not only has he shot like almost every just like fantastic movie from the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, he's done a handful of stuff there. But we picked these specific movies. We wanted to do a Dean Cundey episode. We wanted to open up with a Dean Cundey episode because who talks about cinematographer on their first episode, right? It's usually about the directors, the writers, or producers,
Yeah, and I had a thought about this too. I was like, how should we talk about him? Should we say Dean Cundey full name all the time? Just Dean feels a little too informal, like I know him.
Yeah, you don't know the guy.
But then Cundey just feels like you should know him, but it's kind of like, because we go Scorsese, Spielberg, yada yada.
So we should make Cundey happen, is what you're saying.
Yeah, throw some respect on it. Just
okay.
Last name, auteur.
And everyone knows like Roger Deakins and Spielberg's cinematographer.
Oh, Kaminsky.
Yes.
See, he's got the last name respect. So,
But people don't talk about Cundey enough. So we picked these two movies because they are each a movie from two of Cundey's most prolific collaborations, John Carpenter and Robert Zemeckis.
So when you think of The Fog, what do you think of? Besides, the obvious, the elephant, the Cundey in the room. The Fog.
I do think of Fog, yes. Quite a bit. You fucking called it.
You're like, I think of doors, I think of windows, I think of ships. And you're like, you're just thinking of things that the fog rolls over. I sure am. I sure am. Yeah. Why wouldn't I?
There's bad things in the fog too.
Yeah. What do you know about leprosy?
Don't have it.
Not in San Antonio Bay. I'll tell you that much.
The thing that I think about like immediately, right, when I think of the fog is the atmosphere, the setting, the tone, the mood, right? It is a movie that carries with it a feeling that a lot of movies don't really have. Like they do such a good job of putting you in Antonio Bay.
Yeah. Just great style.
Yeah, and a big fucking bit of that is the cinematographer's work, right? In not only picking composition and lighting, but there's a mood to the fog, and I think that's the very, very, very first thing that you think of, and a lot of that goes to the work that Cundey did on the movie.
Absolutely, I agree. That's why I love going back to it too. I just think of the beginning of the movie, and
I was gonna say that. You stole my answer.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, no. I mean, you're right. Like that first scene, which was an add-on after they had already filmed the movie, right? Which
blows my mind,
right? Because it feels like it was always supposed to be there, right?
Yeah, it fits. Beauty
Beauty in your mistakes. But the movie starts off with this split diopter shot of a watch, a pocket watch. So right off the bat, in the very first shot of the movie, you're treated to like an interesting image,
Yeah. And some audio, because I love how it snaps shut. It's like it like demands your attention too. It's just pay attention.
Is that the thing that you were kind of drawn to?
Yeah,
in that
I
first
love
scene?
it. I like if I saw that in a movie today, I'd be like, all right, we're in for a treat.
Exactly, right? They don't do fun shit like that in movies today.
No.
And then obviously the scene plays out. The old guy telling the stories, and I feel like he was like a cameo Like he was like a famous person from like the 40s, and I'm just like, yeah, the fucking old guy. I don't know who he is or why he should be famous.
Yeah.
Oh no,
Because he's a great orator. That's why.
He just like that scene, he's just was always meant to be there.
Yeah. He's just telling these kids what's up. Just a good old fashioned campfire ghost story.
John Houseman? That sounds right.
He looks like a John.
That motherfucker, John Houseman. John Houseman is, he goes through his scene. He tells the story of the lepers dying, and that gave birth to the town and everything. Mm-hmm. And then, right as they're approaching midnight, witching hour, right? Mm-hmm. We crane over into this like a matte painting shot almost, or not a matte painting shot, like the foreground itself. The foreground is fake.
Yeah.
And we glide over there, and we see this like big wide shot of a day for night shot of the beach.
Again, style, tone, still going on.
Yes. So like it's like in the very first like 3 or 4 minutes of the movie, you're already treated to so many inventive ways of telling the story, that and just the rest of the movie, it sets that tone so efficiently.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a dated way of doing it. Like it's probably considered corny to today's viewers, but I love that shit. It's like, yeah, here be a ghost story about Blake and his lepers. But that was many moons ago. Who's to say whether they still haunt these seas or no? But it's like, oh, but I want to believe. I want to believe that they still haunt these seas.
You want that good old fashioned ghost story feeling. Yeah. Go fuck yourself if you're too adult for like a ghost story over a fire.
Yeah. You hear this old crank talking about ghosts? That's cat.
And I mean, even in 1980 when this movie came out, see, I remembered the date.
Damn. He's on one. Look out.
In 1980 when the movie came out, even that was considered like a sort of an old way to do that, right? Like, oh, they're telling a ghost story by the fire,
Yeah.
What do you think when you first think of The Fog?
Thank you for your question. While I love the beginning and I do love the split diopter shot, just like anyone or just like me and you, I think of almost the moments preceding. Is it preceding? Proceeding, not preceding. I think of the moments just following that. Where
he got there.
We did get there. Where we see just like empty streets where it's actually night, not just the day for night shot, which is again pushing up my glasses. That's day for night. That's blue. That's more blue, and the shadows aren't as harsh as they would be during the normal night. But we see like the church, the empty street. It's truly the witching hour. It's after midnight in this breezy little bayside town, and like some signs are fluttering in the wind. Some dogs are barking in the distance.
Like weird shit is happening.
But it's normal shit. It's just night and no one's doing anything, but it already has weirdness. It's like,
yeah,
we should be looking out for something because the camera's showing us something, but we don't know what we're looking at yet.
It's great that you say that because, in preparation for this.
Yeah.
We watched by the way, hold on. We watched these movies on their Scream Factory releases.
Sure did.
The Blu-ray. No, The Fog was on the 4K, but we watched the Blu-ray disc, and then we watched the Blu-ray of Death Becomes Her.
Yeah.
But the Blu-ray had better special features anyways.
Mm-hmm.
In one of the discussions with Dean Cundey,
The Dean of Darkness is what it was called.
Yes, I'm so glad you remembered what it was. Yeah, there's a great special feature called The Dean of Darkness, and one of the things that he says is John Carpenter wanted to find a way to, imply that darkness could be just outside the frame.
Yeah. Do you want to know the exact phrasing of that?
What did he say?
Using empty parts of the frame to leave room for evil to lurk.
To leave room for evil to lurk. What a fucking cool way to make a movie.
This might be a more recent thing that people are like, oh, the vibes, But that's a vibes-based direction. Is like, you know what, Dean? Leave room in the frame for evil to lurk. And Dean's like, yeah, I could do that.
Yeah, it's clearly not John Carpenter going, we don't have the money for special effects. So, just, make it feel creepy,
We'll add the evil in post.
But no, yeah, you're absolutely right. That whole first, that whole opening sequence is almost which without the ghost story at the beginning, right, is almost like the visual thesis of the movie.
Yeah, it's not here, but it's coming.
Yes, it's almost as if the evil is ghostly and you can't see it.
Ghostly, or as the journal that Father Malone digs out of the hole in the wall early on in the movie says, midnight till 1 belongs to the dead. Yeah, it sure does. It sure does. I believe that shit. Like, I think I already had that thought, or maybe it was like immediately after we see this quote from the journal that we are treated to a little bit more of these exterior shots. Like, I remember one vividly in a parking lot, and we see like a red door to like maybe like not a club because it's like a Bayside town or something like that, but just like some office that's closing late at night. We see some red light, and we see a guy standing in the parking lot. I think we only see like half of him, but we see like an arm like on its waist, but it's not moving. And I'm like, what's that guy doing?
I remember you saying that, but I didn't catch it when we watched it. But I was like, oh, that's creepy. You like described it to me, and I was like, oh, that's creepy.
Yeah, and it is.
Cundey works with John Carpenter on Halloween. I think he calls it, his first like legitimate director of photography job,
which is such a humble way to describe one of the most successful horror movies of all time.
Yeah, just dollar for dollar. Fucking that movie made a boatload of fucking money.
He's like, I think we did all right. Yeah, I'm like, you sure did, Cundey.
So he does Halloween in '78. Comes back with Carpenter for The Fog in 1980. And he says that The Fog was the next step in his collaboration with John Carpenter because the setting had expanded so much from Halloween, which was a very like not only was the setting very tight in terms of just the amount of places that the movie took place, but we're in interiors most of the time, right?
Yeah.
And evil is lurking within a house. But then, fast forward to 1980, we're in exteriors for most of the movie, and the evil monster is a fog, right? And so like he has to figure out, how do I shoot fog to make it scary?
Yeah. And I think they succeeded wildly. As one of my notes, I just said, I'm a big sucker for all the shots that are played in reverse. And it's just
all the fog shots.
And it's not all of them, but like if you know what to look for, you can see it in reverse. And I just love that shit because it adds another little creepy layer to it. And I think the first one we see, or the first one I took note of, was when they're on the fishing boat, and it's like it looks like it's going into like a chest of some sort.
Well, the fishing boat. It looks like it's being sucked into the chest.
Yeah.
Right. but then your mind is like, how is that possible?
Yeah. It's a simple, well, that's unnatural.
Yeah.
You're damn right it's unnatural.
Right. And so it's almost like the special effect. Of course, you have fog machines, right? But the special effect is in camera, right? Like Cundey brings that to the table and is like, we can make this look scary and unnatural simply by filming it and reversing it. Do you know how they did the fog effect just in general?
No.
So, a fuck ton of fog machines,
Okay.
right?
Yeah. I'm writing this down.
And they just used big fans to blow the fog. Like,
wow. And it didn't dissipate.
No, super low. Well, I mean, you're only looking at the shot for a couple of seconds, right?
Yeah.
And so, they film the fog going in natural motion, going away from the camera, right? And then when you reverse it and speed up the footage, it looks like it's ominously coming toward you.
Yeah, it's creeping in.
Yeah. So what a novel way to make a horror movie. To go, all right, there's this thing. We're not going to put a bunch of money into special effects. Not that John Carpenter was particularly known for that at that time, because the only other movie he had done, aside from his science fiction movie that he started out with, like Halloween, there's just a guy in a mask. Like, because the budget is so tight, right? They have to focus on setting that tone and on getting the effects done cheaply. And, I think that's really one of the things that like catapults Cundey's career after that, right? Is how did you do this, you madman, you know?
Yeah.
And so speaking of budgets, I looked it up. Okay, so with a fog, the fog had a production budget of $1 million, which, I've never made a $1 million movie. I've never spent $1 million, but that seems like a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
Not a ton of money to make a movie, though.
Yeah.
But they did what they could with what they had. Flash forward 12 years, and a handful of Back to the Future movies. And in 1992, Cundey now has a $55 million budget. Well, not Cundey, but Bob Zemeckis.
God.
So $1 million, only a portion of which can be given to whatever Cundey's working with, lights, film stock, cameras, etc.
Tom Atkins
times 55. Yeah.
So as you can imagine, there's a lot of fog in Death Becomes Her.
But I think while the fog is a spectacular movie in terms of setting a tone and just making a really just creepy movie on a very low budget, you really see how fucking brilliant Cundey is in Death Becomes Her, which that's, I don't think that's a very well regarded movie, right? Like I don't think of Death Becomes Her as being on a lot of people's top 10, but it's a well-made fucking movie.
Yeah, I think unfairly so, because it's hilarious, I think, from start to finish.
Yeah.
Great opening jokes, great closing jokes, and a lot of great shit in between.
I saw it when I was a kid, and the physical comedy alone sold it for me. This was one of my favorite movies when I was a kid. I didn't understand it, but you don't need to when fucking Goldie Hawn's getting her whole middle blown off.
Yeah,
with a shotgun.
It's very loud. It's campy. It's crude. But it's hilarious, and it's I picked it because it does deserve more recognition, and I'm glad it lined up as a movie that Dean Cundey, shooter of all great movies, has shot as well.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Even as a kid, I probably I knew I was different as a kid. when I imagine the lines, Madeline, I have to speak to Madeline at once. You know, it's like that didn't win me a lot of friends as a kid, being like, Death Becomes Her, anyone? They're like, what are you talking about?
Right, like who the fuck else watched Death Becomes Her? Yet, let alone, got the melodrama of it, right?
Melodrama, absolutely, yeah. Tonally, complete 180 from The Fog, and he didn't shy away from it. I think he blew it out of the freaking water with this one too. And a thing that I really appreciated on this rewatch was the like visual motifs that we got going on that surprised both of us while we were watching it. There's like,
I had seen that movie a lot as a kid. I had seen it a lot as a person who went to film school, right? And it was not until I'm watching it in the context of The Fog that I'm starting to notice, oh man, he's cooking. He's cooking with some shit, right? So sorry, go on.
No, he left a lot of room in the frame for camp to work now, But there's mirrors everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And for a movie about vanity and the pursuit of vanity and what it does to you and
do you remember
your enemies.
Do you remember what the first shot of the movie is?
The first shot of the movie is it's raining over like a city. But it doesn't look like a real city at all. It looks like some like composition,
it's
like CGI city.
It's the same fucking shot, the same composition as right after the campfire scene. In the Fog.
Yeah. Instead of going down to up, like we're lifting to reveal the beach, the San Antonio Bay. We're starting at the rain-drenched city and coming down and seeing, the marquee of Madeline Ashton in The Songbird. Yeah, I remember. It didn't win me a lot of friends, and it still don't.
But then once we cut into the theater, like, what do we see?
Oh, then we see Madeline Ashton, Meryl Streep, sitting in front of a mirror.
Of a vanity.
And there actually is no mirror.
We can see through it, right?
We can see through it.
Yeah. So I thought that was really fun. It's I don't know. It's a cheeky way to kind of break the fourth wall a little bit, and tell you, this movie is about vanity.
It's winking and nodding at you the whole time.
Oh yeah. We're dealing with actors, people who have huge egos and are, we don't even know what the movie's about yet, but we're dealing with people that are very concerned with their age and how they look, and
or even just how they greet people. I love when after we're done with the opening number, and Bruce Willis and Helen. Oh my God, Bruce Willis, and I called her by her character name. Let's just say
Goldie Hawn.
Goldie Hawn.
Goldie Hawn.
Thank you.
Hell.
Yeah. Helen and Ernest are in attendance, and Ernest is like, "Oh my God!" He's loving it, rightfully so. He's correct to love this. And then we cut to Meryl backstage. Again in front of a mirror, but now she's kind of like
a real vanity.
A real vanity, and is like, oh my God, I'm so old. They didn't love me. Nobody loves me. She's believing what they say, what people are saying about her, is that she's over the hill and stuff. And then we hear the knock on the door, and the assistant's like, should I open it? She's looking for permission. She's like, wait, and then she like readjusts her her
like robe.
Yeah, and then she's like, no wait, let me reveal a little bit of this breast right here. And then
she practices, right?
Her surprise. Her and then it's like, okay, yeah, like even that's a performance still.
Yeah, with her best friend, her supposed best friend.
Yeah. Then the door opens. Hell, mad.
I get the impression you're immediately not supposed to like these fucking people.
Yeah. You kind of feel bad for Bruce Willis, Mr. Ernest Menville, Ernest Menville. They've all got fantastic. Let me just read them all out in case no one else is a part of the Death Becomes Her cult until after this. Madeline Ashton, Helen Sharp, Ernest Menville. These are fantastic names. I love them all. But I think we are supposed to feel bad for Ernest because he starts as just a brilliant surgeon who's just about to get married to Helen Sharp.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And right away we can tell that Helen does not want Madeline to meet her.
She's fucking worried.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then after the scene, they're chatting. Fucking Goldie Hawn is like she's twisting the shit out of this like handkerchief.
Yes.
And so it's the shot starts on the handkerchief, and then we go up to Goldie, and she's very distraught, and she's like, Ernest, you don't know her. She steals everyone that I love. And then, but like to the right of the frame is a mirror that for some fucking reason is there.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. But Bruce Willis is talking to her, right? And so they're framing this whole conversation in just this one shot of Goldie and then the mirror, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that leads to the where John Carpenter wanted to imply evil within the frame, right? That evil could be lurking anywhere. Do you remember what was it that Bob Zemeckis? What was his thesis? For the visual composition of the movie.
He didn't want to impose editing on the scenes, on the actors acting, on the performances.
So what does
I'd rather not impose acting.
What does
editing.
that mean? What does that mean though?
Right? Just let the actors act. Let them reveal things about their characters and not go, huh? Look at this. Look at this. Look at this reverse shot. Look at this reverse shot.
Right.
It's not boring.
So you're not having a scene play out in shot reverse shot, cutting back and forth. It's almost like it's a play, and you're letting the characters interact with each other. But it's film, right? And so they have to come up with a creative way to do that, and they fucking were like mirrors. Mirrors is how we're gonna do
mirrors,
this,
bro. Yeah, and it's perfect because that's when we get the first inkling that, Bruce Willis is probably a doof, but right here he knows he's lying to himself, and he's lying to her when he's like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah, he's like, "You got nothing to worry about."
I would never. Yeah, and within 5 minutes,
the next shot is their fucking wedding.
I think. Not to actually you again, but there is a scene where he's operating, and like he's operating on someone's eye, and then looks up. Meryl Streep's outside the operating room waving flirtatiously with some flowers, and then he gives a wave with some blood on his hands.
Yeah.
Which, he's got some blood on his hands, right? Because he's about to do something. He's about to betray the woman he was betrothed to, and then Dun, 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 dun. I was so off key on that, but wedding bells, and then that scene ends how the first scene began with Helen, her twisting that handkerchief.
Yes, and then it we like fade to like 7 years later.
7 years later,
right? I don't think that we even get to see what Ernest and Madeline are doing. We're just on Helen. We're just on Goldie Hawn, right?
Yeah.
And she's in this fucking dank apartment surrounded by fucking cats. She's gained like 100 pounds back, when it was funny to be fat in movies.
Yeah, and be like, she's a cat lady. She's got literally 20 of them. They play it up so much that it like horseshoes back to being funny. It goes around offensive and being like, you know what? Yeah, no one really has this many cats, honestly.
Right. Because like you realize that over the last 7 years, she's had a singular focus.
Yes.
And it is killing fucking Madeline Ashton.
Yes. It is in the VHS player, and we're playing it. and she's choking to death, and we're rewinding it and she's choking to death, and there's people knocking on the door saying you haven't paid rent, and she's rewinding even quicker, and she's looking over her shoulder and she's thinking how many more times she could rewind it and then play it, and she's choking to death, and they're barreling down the door and they're taking her under her arms, and she's reaching forward and she's still rewinding
She's
it,
still fucking rewinding
and then she
it as
plays
they're
it,
dragging her
and
out.
then as she fucking dies for the final time on that small little TV screen, Helen smiles and gets carted off. And it's beautiful.
And that scene, I think, is only a handful of shots, not imposing edits.
No.
We come in and you get this whole story of what her life has been like over 7 years in just a single, just boom, you know?
Yeah.
And aside from having to cut back and forth between the screen and her,
That felt necessary.
yeah,
It didn't feel like they were covering for something.
exactly. But like the whole movie is filled with stuff like that, where they're having like two characters talk to each other, but they're taking full advantage of the frame, and they're not cutting back and forth. I think the one that just really blew my mind was we're like in present day, and we're at Bruce Willis and Meryl Streep's mansion, right?
Okay.
And the maid comes in, and she's waking Madeline up, who is laying upright in bed, and she's got all this whole apparatus to make sure that she doesn't, wrinkle herself in her sleep.
Yeah. It implies that if you sleep any other way, you're a fool and you're aging yourself.
Yeah, exactly. But what happens in that scene? The maid comes in. She tells her to wake up. Meryl Streep has this kind of like really sadistic response where she's like, "Oh, I think I need to hear it." And she's like, "But the maid's like, it's Tuesday." And she's like, "I think I need to hear it every day." And then the maid says something like, "You're looking beautiful this morning," or some shit.
You're looking younger and younger.
Yes. And so they have that exchange, and like we go like by this point, right? They've been talking for a little bit. We go from a wide of the room into a medium of Meryl Streep in bed, into a kind of two shot, because again you have the maid talking to her, and we can see her in a mirror that's just over her shoulder.
Yeah, mirror over the bed. Well, behind the bed. Not over it.
And then I think there's another camera move where the maid, she comes around the bed, and then the camera pulls back a little bit into an actual two shot.
Yeah.
Any other movie, any other comedy director, right, would have approached that scene with getting close-ups on each of the pieces of dialogue. But you got Cundey coming in and filming it in a way that these characters, these actors, can just really work with each other, and you believe it, right?
Yeah. It's giving Cundey for sure, that scene. Yeah. Because and then it pulls back. There's all this interaction, but there's no editing trying to, we don't cut to see the maid go, like, roll her eyes and be like, "You're looking younger and younger, Madeline," or whatever. It's just we see her like kind of blurry in the mirror, but she has great body language. She kind of shrugs it off. The eye rolling is implied, because what's important is Madeline going, "Oh yeah, I'm flattered." Like, but you just forced this woman that you work with to call you young,
right? And you wouldn't pick up on these little moments if you were cutting back and forth the whole time.
Yeah, because then it would be too quick. And then the pacing would be all off. But then I love how that shot ends, because then it becomes about keeping the momentum of the story going, because then we see the other side of the bed. It's neatly made.
Yes.
And she goes,
and she calls it out.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you remember what she says?
She's like, "I find it hard to believe that he woke up early and made his side of the bed."
Damn.
And you don't even realize that the camera is pulling back to reveal it. And then suddenly she says the line and you're like, oh, they were trying to tell me something that whole fucking time.
Yeah. It's wonderful. And then, yeah, I find it hard to believe that he made the bed or something like that. And then, where is he? And then the maid points up. And that ends the scene.
Yes.
It's great.
He pulled back, leaving enough room for the maid to come in, hit her mark.
Yeah.
And then we focus on her hand pointing up.
Mm-hmm. And then one detail that I love also about these two back-to-back scenes, is the maid comes up with a tray full of shit for Madeline.
Yeah.
And then after we end that
full
scene,
of breakfast, right? Or
yeah, or like whatever she needs to
her
get out of
morning
bed.
routine.
Yeah. And then after we get the where is he hand point up to the ceiling, we cut to the maid carrying in a tray that just has a fucking Bloody Mary on it. That's it. And already funny. That's a great visual gag.
Yeah.
And then we follow that tray in to Ernest fucking passed out on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
So he's already, this is his hair of the dog. And she like leans over him or something and like kind of like kicks him awake or some crap like that. Like leans down, just like, your breakfast.
He's like, you're beautiful, Rose. She's like, you're so cute.
You're so cute. Yeah. Which is a way more like honest interaction than tell me I'm young.
Right. But he seems to be the more unhappy one.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And so then he reaches for I love this. I just love this little thing that, again, another aspect I love about this movie is just how fucking funny Bruce Willis is.
Yeah.
Too. He really felt like he was feeling himself.
He's a comedy actor. Yeah. For sure.
So he reaches over to the Bloody Mary. I think maybe he sips it first, or he just like takes the celery out and just says not necessary.
He says fuck the celery first, takes a sip.
Okay.
Goes and you think it's too strong, but he goes more vodka.
I love it. Yeah, that was great. More vodka.
I think that's the camp of it though, right? Like no line, no moment can be allowed to not be funny.
Yeah, but the jokes aren't like overlapping each other, but if you did find that very funny, and you're like dying laughing like I was, you might have missed the line immediately after that, which is it up?
Uh-huh.
Referring to Madeline.
Right.
I'm like, we've learned so much about these people.
Right. You know exactly how the past 14 years has gone for them. Yeah. You don't need to have a movie where they interact for you to know that they're unhappy with each other.
Yeah, they're not bickering at each other from the jump. They do bicker at each other because of course. But it's used so sparingly that when it happens, you're like, yeah, I've been waiting for this.
Yeah. They live almost separate lives, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think the other thing that I noticed, just aside from the, masterful like camera work was, a lot of people talk about like a Spielberg haze in his movies,
or the push,
or the push, or the Spielberg stare, or whatever. I think you had a little bit of that in this movie too. At least,
oh, absolutely.
At least a haze that like a glamour haze.
Yeah, or like the soft lighting, the glow.
Yeah,
from the chandeliers and stuff like that. It lends an elegance, or at least an appearance of elegance.
I mean, like you immediately think, glamour haze, right? You immediately think of like movies from the 40s, 50s, 60s, right? Where you had, the actresses forming friendships with the cinematographer so that they'd use the right lens on them, It feels like that. It feels like a movie not of its age, not of the 90s, right?
No, not at all. Yeah.
Specifically because like Cundey is a man of setting, if anything, right? And what's the setting? We're in Beverly Hills, right? We are dealing with the most vain people on the planet. So of fucking course, we're gonna have some glamour haze all throughout the movie.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. That it's set in Hollywood, because I think that was just kind of implied. But speaking of, we watched the Scream Factory, physical release of this, the Blu-ray. We watched the making of featurette, and even Zemeckis was like kind of worried about that, or like the set designer who, forgive me, I can't remember his name right now, was kind of worried that like, yo, are we being a little too mean with this whole like, yay, Hollywood, you bunch of vain assholes.
Right. The set designer was afraid that it was too gaudy.
Yeah. So they were like, he was afraid it was too gaudy. But then Dean Cundey showed up and was like, I can work with this.
I can work in this space.
And he's like, whew. And he's like, good. Because we haven't mentioned it yet. Dean Cundey does have like a background in like set decoration, set design. I think that's why he initially went to film school. And then he switched his major to cinematography.
Mm-hmm.
And we're all the better for it. But he still like carried that appreciation forward with him.
I think a line that I remember, they were like, he was like, yeah, Dean, all you got to do is give him a place to put his lights and he'll work his magic.
Yeah.
Something like that.
That was, yeah, I remember that too. Great making of for Death Becomes Her, for such an opulent, big $55 million movie. And even these people were like, I don't know if it's going to work, let alone like the special feature, the special effects.
And you really got to also watch the vintage making of. There's 2 making ofs on that Blu-ray. We watched the one that was made for Scream Factory, but there's another one that I think was either made for either the VHS release, how they would have featurettes like at the end of the tape, or the DVD release. I can't remember what it was originally made for, but they call it like a vintage making of.
Yeah.
And it's in that you get to hear Bob Zemeckis talk about not wanting to impose an edit.
Yeah.
So definitely, if you've got the Scream Factory, definitely watch that. Watch the older one too.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then we do, it's not Cundey talk here, but we do get a lot more insight into how the actors loved working on it too. Meryl Streep said her mom showed up on set and was like, I can't wait for you to see this. And then the first day she shows up, she's in the blue screen like mask on, doing the broken neck scene, just like, they're paying you all this money to wear a blue mask on your head. So it's so funny that someone like Meryl Streep's mom is like, I don't get what these pictures are all about. It's great.
I mean, that's a good point, right? Because they are, and this is why it's a Bob Zemeckis movie, right? They are doing something that's never been done.
Yeah.
In the fucking infancy of CGI, I don't think we're gonna see Jurassic Park for another 2 years.
Yeah.
Right.
I think the set designer was stolen from pre-production for Jurassic Park. Yeah, because he was like, I was already signed on to do Jurassic Park, and then I set up a lunch with Bob and was like, oh yeah, this sounds great, I would love to do it, but I'm already on, like, we'd have to talk to Steven about it. And he's like, I already did.
It's done.
It's done. Yeah. I'm Bob Zemeckis. But I think that's, Bob Zemeckis. That's why there is a lot of Spielberg comparisons, because Spielberg, produced Back to the Future. So they talk.
They had, Frank Marshall, Kathleen Kennedy. They had a lot of the same executive producers as well.
That old Motley Crue.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see.
Fun group of kids.
I have a really, really informative note on the vintage making of featurette. Would you love to hear it?
Absolutely.
Very funny stuff. This is what I wrote.
Why?
It just made me laugh. I like literally couldn't like take my eyes away to like jot down some notes on it. So I was just like, I loved seeing just like Bruce Willis have a good time too.
Oh my God. What were his title ideas for the movie?
It's death, baby.
I would have called the movie "It's Death, Baby."
So clearly he was feeling himself even after the movie wrapped. Was like, yeah, you want to talk about it? It's death, baby.
He's like, that's why I'm in front of the camera.
If we're on the subject of other notes, extremely helpful notes, but that I might add, that I wrote down on the regular making of featurette, I wrote, Dean has a George Lucas chin, and I mean this as a compliment. All great men have like kind of that frog chin thing, and is very humble about the thing that has made him very successful.
Dude, he's so humble. He's more humble about his own fucking career than we are in this podcast. About his career.
Yeah. We're like the legend. He'd be like, yeah, just buy me a beer or something. If you see me.
Even the way he talks about his work, like it's so down to earth and straightforward. He doesn't complicate it with these ethereal descriptions or motivations of things. He's just like, yeah, we wanted to do this and we did it. You know?
Yeah. And he's always like, it was a joy working with them, and I would do it again.
Yeah.
That's a perfect collaborator right there.
And you wonder why he's shot some of the most popular fucking movies on the planet. Why he's so prolific, why he's done so many of these things.
Wonder no more. That's the Cundey connection.
We want to thank you guys so much for listening.
Yes,
we
thank
hope you come back and watch some more of our double features. We've got a bunch more planned. But as always, I think one of the reasons we want to do this podcast is because physical media is so important, especially now in the realm where you just pay a monthly subscription for some shit, and a month or two later, it's gone. It's no longer on the platform.
Yeah.
Or worse, you buy something for as much as the fucking DVD costs.
Mm-hmm.
And because some deal with the licensing fell through, you now can't own the thing that you paid money for.
Yeah. Then you get that email that says, guess what? We lost the rights. You don't have it either.
And so we at PhantasmaCast are big supporters of the physical media space. And so we implore you, once if you're putting together your double feature, go out and grab the physical releases of these movies. Like I said, we watched the Scream Factory 4K. Well, we watched the Blu-ray, but again, I had the 4K Blu-ray combo. So we watched the Blu-ray disc, and this listen to how many fucking special features this thing comes with, right? Dolby Atmos track.
Boom.
New restored original mono track.
Bang.
4K restoration by Studio Canal. Audio commentary with John Carpenter and Deborah Hill.
Bing.
Audio commentary with Adrienne Barbeau, Tom Atkins, and Tommy Lee Wallace.
I was going to do a comedy sound there, but I actually want to watch that. That sounds great.
You've got a bunch of special titled featurettes with a bunch of the people that worked on the movie. Dean of Darkness being one of them.
Leave room in the frame for darkness.
And if I had to give one criticism of that one, I think that's more of a retrospective on Dean's whole career rather than the work he did on The Fog.
Right.
But still some pretty interesting shit.
Yeah. Informative. Could have used a bit more fog, is what you're saying? Okay.
I bet you he got that note all the fucking time. A ton of featurettes, outtakes, special effects tests, the trailers from Hell segment from Mick Garris, storyboards, theatrical trailers, TV spots, photo gallery, all of this shit. It's a compendium of all of the stuff that went into making this movie. So do yourself a favor, go out, grab the Scream Factory copy of this. But we also watched the Death Becomes Her Blu-ray. Derek, what's on that?
This is also the Scream Factory release, the collector's edition of Death Becomes Her. I don't believe there's a 4K of it. Otherwise, at the time of this recording, I don't believe there's a 4K of it. Otherwise, I would have snatched that up immediately. But the special features for this one are what we referred to quite frequently was the making of Death Becomes Her, featuring interviews with Bob Zemeckis, David Koepp, who... Another note of mine, actually, is that David Koepp kind of looks a little bit like Matthew Modine playing a writer.
He fucking does. I was thinking Matthew Modine.
Which is awesome. Love them both, by the way. Director of photography, Dean Cundey. Heard of him?
Yeah,
Dean of Darkness. And then, here I am rectifying a mistake from earlier. The production designer, Rick Carter. Who's like, well, we don't want to be too mean to these Hollywood types.
Rick Carter, we might do an episode for you in the future. We'll do it. We'll call it the Carter Connection next.
We'll make amends. Yeah. And then special effects artists Lance Anderson and David Anderson, brothers. Steve Butabi, Doug Butabi.
You'll have to find out by watching the special features of the Blu-ray release.
Mm-hmm. Only other special features of note: the vintage making of, a photo gallery, and a theatrical trailer. Didn't do the photo gallery. I actually don't know who the photo gallery is for. Maybe that's a production designer head thing. So if any production designers love the look of Death Becomes Her, probably check out that photo gallery. The theatrical trailer, we did watch that too. And I thought it was really funny that it included clips from the vintage making of featurette.
There was one shot, yeah.
It was definitely like they were behind the scene.
They were just dicking around behind the scenes.
Yeah. They're like, Bruce is dead or something. I don't think they said Bruce or something like that because his name's Ernest. And they're like, Ernest is dead. And I was just like, what is that doing on the theatrical trailer for this film? This following Back to the Futures and Who Framed Roger Rabbit? They're like, let's just throw in a little thing.
Yeah. And then not to mention, like, there's a bunch of scenes in the trailer that aren't in the movie.
Oh yeah,
extra footage, stuff like that. But also, I thought it was really funny. I think there's a portion of the making of where like the Tales from the Crypt theme music starts to play.
Yeah.
The dun 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 dun, and I'm sitting there like, what the? Am I having a stroke? Why is this playing? And then I realized, Bob Zemeckis fucking executive produced Tales from the Crypt, so he can do whatever the hell he wants with that music.
That's right.
So if you've enjoyed this episode, absolutely go out, grab these two movies, watch them together in a night, over a weekend, over a week, in small increments, whenever you can. But absolutely watch these movies. Look out for the amazing work that Dean Cundey, along with his, the rest of his collaborators, put into it. And yeah, just enjoy.
Yeah, and then we'll see you guys next week for our next double feature.
I'm Jake.
And I'm Derek.
And this is PhantasmaCast.
Should I have done it at the same time as you? I didn't know.
Let's do it again.
I thought it was cheesy. Okay, all right.
I'm Jake.
And I'm Derek.
And this is PhantasmaCast. It was sexy.
Had a little sultriness to it. PhantasmaCast.